When does a legitimate business courtesy become a crime? It's a question that compliance officers and executives wrestle with every single day. Think about it. When exactly does a seemingly harmless business lunch or maybe a modest seasonal gift cross that invisible line into corporate bribery? Well, under Thailand's strict anti-corruption laws, that line is dangerously thin. And misunderstanding it, that can cost an organization everything from its hard-earned reputation to some massive legal penalties.
So welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking Thailand's No Gift initiative, which is driven by the National Anti-Corruption Commission, or NACC. I am super excited to guide you through this because, honestly, this initiative is incredibly misunderstood. We aren't just talking about a polite etiquette campaign where you refuse a box of chocolates during the holidays. No way! This is a mandatory, systemic overhaul of corporate control. It literally forces businesses to completely rethink how value is transferred between the private sector and public officials.
Okay, here's our agenda for today. 1. The gift illusion. 2. Hidden influence in blind spots. 3. The 3,000 baht trap. 4. Why corporate policies fail. And 5. Building a resilient defense. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The gift illusion. Now, gifts and hospitality are entirely common, ordinary features of commercial relationships, right? Expressing appreciation is just a normal part of doing business. But the danger lies in how easily these ordinary mechanisms can be weaponized to bypass the ANAC's strict anti-bribery regulations. Because corrupt value doesn't just mean handing over an envelope of cash or a lavish seasonal gift, the real danger is actually in the hidden benefits. We're talking about luxury travel, paying a relative's school fees, offering below-market property, or even creating unneeded internships. These completely bypass the traditional everyday definition of a gift.
Just listen to this. A modest meal offered during an ordinary working meeting may present limited risk. The same meal can become more significant if it is offered privately to an official deciding an urgent license. Context is literally everything. The face value of the hospitality matters far less than the timing, the intent, and whether there are pending decisions on the table. Basically, a $20 lunch is just a lunch, right? Up until it's bought for the exact person who is about to approve your urgent customs clearance.
Moving on to Section 2, Hidden Influence and Blind Spots. So, you might have your internal employees operating totally by the book, but introducing intermediaries creates massive blind spots. Companies frequently interact with public bodies through agents, customs brokers, consultants, or joint venture partners. But here is the critical takeaway. Delegating a government interaction to a broker absolutely does not delegate your company's legal risk. Under Section 176 of Thailand's Organic Act on Counter-Corruption, your organization can be held fully liable if an associated individual commits bribery for your benefit. If your customs broker is suddenly requesting cash with unusual urgency, or maybe your consultant has vaguely described fees but somehow possesses magical, unexplained access to high-ranking officials, look, those aren't just quirks of doing business. Those are massive red flags for off-the-books transactions that create direct, serious exposure for your company.
Section 3. The 3,000 baht trap. Okay, it's time to debunk one of the most widely misunderstood concepts in Thai corporate compliance. 3,000 baht. Under very specific, defined circumstances, Thailand's rules do permit state officials to accept customary gifts up to this amount. But businesses dangerously misinterpret this number. They look at 3,000 baht and view it as a commercial safe harbor, like a blank check permission slip to give any official a benefit just as long as it stays below this threshold. And honestly, that interpretation is incredibly unsafe.
The reality is the 3,000 baht limit is a control trigger. It is not an automatic declaration of legitimacy. The rule only concerns limited circumstances for customary benefits. It emphatically does not authorize a company to provide targeted, repeated, or concealed gifts connected with a government decision. A benefit offered with corrupt intent presents a serious bribery risk, regardless of whether it costs 30,000 baht or 300 baht. At the end of the day, the intent is what actually matters.
Section 4. Why corporate policies fail. So why is it that having a beautifully written, nicely published no-gift statement in your employee handbook often fails completely to protect the company when the authorities actually come knocking? Well, the answer lies in a few specific failure modes. A one-line prohibition is excessively simple, right? It doesn't tell staff how to handle official delegations or legitimate hospitality. Then you have unmanaged exceptions, where a policy bans gifts for everyone except senior executives who just bypass the rules for their quote-unquote influential relationships. We also see threshold gaming, which is fascinating but incredibly dangerous. This is where employees literally split up expense claims to stay just under the approval limits. They divide a larger benefit across several team members so no red flags go off. Combine that with fragmented records where travel and donations are tracked in completely different systems, plus a lack of safe reporting channels, and your written policy becomes effectively useless.
And when those weak corporate policies fail, this is exactly the step-by-step, evidence-led investigation process that authorities will use to unravel the misconduct. They don't just glance at the ledger. Step 1, they identify the official's role and the pending commercial decision. Step 2, they trace the financial evidence, looking way beyond direct payments to see how third parties move the money. Step 3, they pull the communications, emails, calendar invites, text messages to establish intent and context. And finally, Step 4, they aggregate the activity. They look at how several individually modest meals over 6 months form a massive, calculated risk pattern directed at one specific official. They connect the benefit directly to the anticipated commercial advantage.
Section 5. Building a resilient defense.
So, the big question, how do we prevent this? A genuine no-gift culture requires an active corporate operating model, or a resilient control stack. It functions as a continuous, living operating system, not just some seasonal HR email sent out in December reminding people not to accept fruit baskets. It's a systemic design meant to detect and stop improper influence before the value ever leaves your organization.
Building that resilient stack involves these 7 critical layers. You start with clear definitions of indirect benefits, then implement risk-based prior approvals and central registers so absolutely nothing slips through the cracks. But look closely at Layer 5, Accounts Payable Analytics. This is where the magic really happens. A resilient system uses analytics to flag duplicate amounts, threshold clustering, or strange round value claims before the money is ever paid out. It combines that technical safeguard with Layer 4, rigorous third-party due diligence, and Layer 7, ensuring anyone can safely report suspicious activity without any fear of retaliation from senior management.
And this brings us to a really empowering concept, the power of collective action. The Thai Private Sector Collective Action Against Corruption, or CAC, is a certification framework that proves companies actually have these systems in place. Now, why does this matter? Because a single company refusing to pay bribes might be terrified of losing business to an unethical competitor. But when a united group of businesses applies these standards together, it actively reduces that commercial disadvantage. It forces integrity standards all the way down the supply chain, proving that clean business is, for sure, good business.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to evaluate as you look at your own organization's internal controls. Ask yourself right now, can your organization truly identify, challenge, and evidence the full range of benefits connected to public decisions? If the answer is no, or even a hesitant maybe, it's probably time to move beyond the illusion of a simple policy and start building a resilient defense against the hidden realities of corporate bribery. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking those tough questions.